So, good morning, Eversheds. Are you well? Yes. Come on, you can do better than that. Come on, Eversheds. Are you well?
Yes.
Perfect. So, I want to introduce myself. As you've heard, my name is Duncan Stevens, and I'm three things. I'm a keynote speaker, which means I travel the world helping brands, companies, teams, and leaders become more influential and more collaborative. I'm number two, the founder of the Influence Association and author of best-selling book, Effective Influence. And perhaps, thirdly, the most intriguingly, I'm a mentalist. Does anybody here know what a mentalist is? It's not one of those, whoever's doing that at the back. What's a mentalist? Does anybody know? A mentalist is somebody who uses suggestion and psychology to influence and persuade people under the umbrella of entertainment. So we're going to try a little bit of that later on today and hopefully have some fun. Does that sound good? Perfect. So, why is all of this important? Well, it doesn't matter if you've got a great product, or in your case, a great service. If you can't get people to buy it, or even believe in it, then it doesn't matter how great it is. So we've only got a short length of time together. I think Kelly said we've got, 4.5 hours is it we've got on stage? I'm joking. We've only got a short length of time together. And in that time, I want to give you some tips, tools, strategies, techniques to help you influence, persuade, and collaborate more effectively, more often. Does that sound good? Perfect. So before we start all of that, I want to introduce you to somebody. Does anybody here know who this is? Yes, maybe? This is Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the founder or the inventor of the World Wide Web. And when he invented the World Wide Web, he faced two challenges. The first challenge he faced, he had to influence his employers, CERN, and collaborate with his partners to bring his idea to a reality. The second challenge he faced, and perhaps the greater challenge, he had to influence his employers, CERN, and collaborate with his partners to make the World Wide Web absolutely free. Now, would we agree, had it not been for his ability to influence and collaborate, the world would be a completely different place to it is now. Thus, our ability to influence, persuade, and collaborate is often even greater than the idea itself. And even the internet itself has changed the way we do business, the way the world is. Because buyers or clients are now 50% down that buying or selling process, even before they've come face to face with you guys. So we need to think about doing things a little differently. And to do things differently, we need to do different things, because if we keep doing what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So, with that in mind and the idea of doing things a little bit differently, I want you guys to take part in a little bit of a mentalism experiment. So I'm going to ask 4 of you to come up on stage. If you do come on stage, you're not going to be felt to feel silly or anything like that. But if you do come up on stage, you're going to make your way up these stairs here. You're going to stand in one line here. If you could choose 2 men, 2 women for me, it doesn't matter who. If you could stand up, choose 2 men, 2 women for me, Tafiq. Anybody you want. And if they do come up, make them feel welcome by a round of applause. I'm also going to give this out to you here. You keep that there for now. Ibrahim as well, taking your time, good man, all the way up. So we've got 4, 2, 1, 3, not necessarily 1, 2, 3, 4, but they all had the choice to either to stick or swap. I gave Keith an envelope beforehand. If you stand up and if you could turn around, hold it up so everyone else can see, we should hopefully have, check it out. We do have a 4, 2, a 1, and 3, and let's give our 4 participants a massive clap. Keith, if I could grab the piece of paper back, Keith. But it is just 4 numbers. If we arrange any 4 numbers in any particular order, it is just 1 in 200, 250,000. But they decided to whether to stick or switch. Influenced or not, they did in these particular seats at this particular time. If you open up your name tag there and you hold it up so everyone else can see, we should have a 4 there. Each of you open up your names tag. Andrew, do the same. Ibrahim at the end. We should hopefully have, check it out, 4, 2. You're struggling, Andrew, but you can simply open it up like that. Let's give a big clap, everybody! It is just another 4 numbers. And they did also have a choice whether to stick or switch, but they ended up in these seats at this particular time. I'll take your little green slips off of you. If each of 4 of you reach behind your chairs, each behind your pillows, there should be a slip of paper. If you take that out, hold it up so everyone else can see. Check it out. Let's give them a big clap, everybody. Amazing stuff. That's the end. No more stings. Give your name tags back. So let's give our 4 participants some hands up if you were able to do that. 1, 2, 5%, 10%. Hands up who wasn't able to do that. Hands up who won't put your hand up even no matter what I ask. Yes. Okay. So, We're going to try that again at the end. But here I saw people in heavy negotiation. There was a bit of influencing at the back. There was incentivizing, some people pulling and pushing, a bit of blackmailing I think I saw as well. So we're going to try it again at the end. And when we try it again at the end, I'm going to, throughout the course of here, I'm going to give you some influence tips, tools, strategies, and then hopefully you're going to cherry pick a few of those and try it again, and hopefully more of you will be able to influence at the end of the session. So, let's get into it. When I created my effective influence model, or over the amount of years I've been studying influence and persuasion, I wanted to start off by drawing from the best of the best. And I started with this gentleman here. Does anybody know who this is? This is Joe Girard, an American car Chevrolet salesman who, in 1973, sold 1,425 cars in a calendar year. So many it got him featured in the Guinness Book of Records. Over the course of his life, he sold 13,000 cars. So I looked into what were the secrets to his success. And I identified three secrets. The first, he sold more than the car. If any of his customers came back to have their car serviced, he would prioritize them above everybody else. He would sometimes even pay for the car parts themselves and even get 3 or 4 mechanics working on the car at any one time. All he asked in return is they would come back. The second, he treated customers and his team like family. Once a month, every month, he got an artist to hand draw or hand commission a card, and he sent out a card to each one of his customers. And inside it, he wrote, "I like you." It sounds a little strange, but it activated a very powerful principle of reciprocity, which we'll come to later. And what about his team? For his team, he took his team out for a meal, like your birthday, once a month, every month. And in return, they would work harder and longer hours and deliver higher levels of customer service. And finally, he was just an ordinary guy. He didn't dress with any expensive or lavish taste, which made him a lot more likable and therefore relatable. People want to work for or alongside people who are likable. So whilst these are about selling a car, I think it's equally important to consider how they could be used in your organization for your clients. But I thought to myself, surely you can't just influence and persuade everybody with these 3 things. There's got to be more to it than that. People have different behaviors, different attributes. So a colleague of mine, Robert Cialdini, identified 6 and potentially now 7 different principles of persuasion. Now, we don't have time to go into each of them today, but you can cherry pick these into your own organization as well. And we'll share and go a little bit deeper into them as well. Consensus or social proof. People say yes to recommendations that have been made by the majority of people around them that are like them. Authority. People say yes to people in positions of authority. Are you the leading law firm in the Middle East? Reciprocity, as I said before, people give first to people that they owe. If you give first, people will give back often to a higher perceived value. Scarcity, people say yes to products or services which are rare, scarce, or dwindling availability. Consistency, people say yes to requests which align with commitments that they've either made or said or done publicly. And finally, likability, like Joe Girard and Ali Raider. People say yes to people who are likable. Which then leads us on to this, my effective influence model. And the first and most important part is collaboration. Both Tawfiq and Keith and John Michel all mentioned collaboration and how important it is for success. So, by a show of hands, I know your partners and or associates, by a show of hands, hands up who here is a manager or managing an account, managing people, or doing any form of management. Management account, managing people. Perfect, 50% of you. And of those same people who just put their hands up, how many of you are leaders? Now, I know the language might sound a little bit twee, but the language we use in any given context is absolutely proportional to how we think, feel, act, and behave, and equally how others think, feel, act, and behave. The very definition of to manage is to firefight, to cope. You don't get up in the morning and say, I'm off to manage, I'm off to cope. No, you're off to lead. Lead the organization in the new direction with the new strategies your leadership team has spoken about. And what about a leader? In every organization I go to, I ask them, do you have an aim? The very aim of a leader should be to create self-managing teams. So think about this in your collaborative perspective. So let's look at some of the best leaders and collaborators in the world. So by a round of applause, who would say this is a great leader? Yes, of course. Abraham Lincoln, of course. What about this gentleman? Yes? What about this gentleman? Yes, more collusion than collaboration, I think, here. What about the following gentleman? Yes, of course, Winston Churchill. And finally, this gentleman. Come on, your esteemed leader, exactly. Are there any others we can think of, or anybody would like to share? No? Too early in the morning? Too shy? Okay. Well, I'd like to share somebody who I believe represents both collaboration and leadership that most people often overlook, but I think serves as a great example for this talk and you guys. Supercharge your collaboration. It's by asking better questions. Better questions lead to better conversations. Better conversation leads to better relationships. And better relationships lead to better sales. So we want to start with a solid straight shape, a triangle. Finish this for me. If you do not ask, you do not get. Absolutely. So if you're able to create certainty and relatability and establish trust, you are able to establish yourself as a trusted advisor, which is a fundamental part of one of your values. And if you establish yourself as a trusted advisor, then you can give the following recommendations. Because of the fact that you're looking to work with a leading Middle East organization that can look after your real estate or litigation needs, then I would recommend aligning with us. But you don't have to influence others by yourself. It can be wholly more effective to point to what others are already saying or already doing. You already have quite the collection of clients you're already working with. So I think it's wholly important to leverage that through the principle of persuasion of consensus or social proof. Let me ask you this. We've got product A and product B. Product A, for the argument's sake, let's take Facebook. Product A has got 100 likes or 100 recommendations, and product B has got 20 recommendations. Which product are you more likely to buy? A, yeah, because it's got more likes. However, what if I was to tell you that product B, those likes and recommendations come from your friends, your family, people that you trust? Which product are you more likely to buy now? Product B, right? And the same for you. Your list of clients, they weren't just any old clients. These were high-end clients. So are we pointing to these to endorse future growth for Eversheds? So as I said, instead of trying to influence others by yourself, it can be wholly more effective to point to what others already said or doing or what they've already said or done. Let's put some context around this. There was a group of psychologists who were invited into a hotel. Now, I'm sure you've seen these little signs on the top of towels to help you reuse your towels. Have you seen this in your travels? Help the hotel save energy. They were invited in to see if they could help the hotel save energy through customers reusing their towels. So they created 4 signs to start off with. Help the hotel save energy, help save the planet, partner with us to help save the planet, and finally, help save resources for future generations. Simply by putting these 4 signs on the top of towels, what percentage increase of towel reusage do you think there was? Had a guess. Anybody? 30, not quite as high as 30, but thank you for asking. It was 16%. 16%. There was no social proof involved. However, this is where it got interesting. They then decided to inject social proof and created a 5th sign. Please join your fellow guests in helping save the planet. 75% of guests participate in our resource-saving program by using their towel more than once. What percentage increase this time off of nobody reusing their towels? 24? 44. But they believed they could go one further. They created a 6th sign, and this is it. Please join your fellow guests in helping save the planet. 75% of guests staying in this room use their towel more than once. What percentage this time? 60? I wish it was. 49%. Not bad. 49%. Was there an opportunity cost? Was there any cost involved? No. They were simply leveraging social proof and injecting this into it. But, So this is how you can leverage external people or organizations for your own benefit. But equally so, one of your main quadrants of your values is transformational change. So we can use transformational change, or use consensus or social proof with you guys to help create this. And what I want to introduce you to is stacking, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So what I'm encouraging you guys to do is use stacking to a collective advantage by asking people to come up with their own thoughts, suggestions, or ideas. The only rule of stacking is nothing is too insignificant. As soon as somebody suggests something, share it. It doesn't matter how nonsensical it is, share it, because off the back of that one idea, thought, or suggestion, someone may come up with another thought, another suggestion, another idea, and before you know it, everybody is involved in the creative process and collaborative journey. It's the sum of all of those parts together which is greater than that one little one you started. And being such an international organization, you're going to be able to draw from different parts of the world. Which leads to this slide. Does anybody know where this is? A couple of guys are winking at me. Exactly, lingerie. La Senza lingerie shop. And you're probably thinking, how on earth is he going to shoehorn this into a keynote? Well, if you go to a lingerie shop, La Senza is an example, you don't just get a little piece of fabric and they put it in a plastic bag. No, they put it in a paper bag with a cardboard bottom. They've got rope handles on it. They've got a little gold sticker on the top. They've got some paper in it, aromatic beads, business cards. It's the sum of all of these things which is greater than that little piece of fabric you started with. If I put price here and value here, which one looks bigger for you guys? Price, right? Because it's out here. But if I swap this around and put value here and price here, which one looks bigger now? It's a value piece, right? So like I said, the clearer we can become over the value and all the packaging and presentation, the easier life will become for us. So I want to give you a principle of persuasion to support that, and that is that of authority. A group of psychologists were invited into a real estate agency. Real estate is in some ways similar to law firms, in some ways, from my experience. Invited in to see if they could increase the number of appointments booked and number of contracts signed. So they identified the first point of contact between the client and the real estate broker. And the calls were being transferred in a very generic way. You need to speak to, you want to let your house? Let me put you through to Sandra. She'll help you let your house. You want to sell your house? Let me put you through to Tom. He'll help you sell your house. What they saw there was a real opportunity to weave in some authority, weave in some value. So rather than transferring the calls in a generic way, this time they transferred the call with some authority, with some value. You need to speak to Tom. If they're wanting to sell their house, you need to speak to Tom. He's our head of sales. He's got over 15 years experience and he's just sold a house on your street for $1.5 million. You want to let your house after ascertaining some questions about it? Let me put you through to Sandra. She's got over 10 years experience letting houses. She's a specialist at letting houses in your neighborhood. What does it do? Wow, it makes them feel looked after personally. Not only that, but their reputation has been inflated because it's come third party. They don't have to be boastful about themselves. So what happened? Appointments went up by 20% and contracts signed went up by 15%. Was there a cost there? No. Was there an opportunity cost? Again, no, simply by adding value and authority. So we'll start with a little experiment. Everybody make a circle with your hands. And as quickly as you can, if you'll touch your chin, quick as you can, touch your chin. Guys, this is your chin. This is your chin. This is your chin. Come on, maybe too much alcohol. So, whilst this is a little bit fun, we all think we are great listeners, but very rarely we are. The difference between a good listener waits for a gap in the conversation to reply. A great listener waits for a gap in the conversation to ask more questions, to understand. The difference between a good listener and a great listener simply comes down to intent. If you change your intention, you can give your client what they want and what they need. Now, you might think you can just simply ask a client, what do they need? At best, they will only tell you what they want. If Henry Ford asked people what they needed, they would have said faster horses. To understand what people need, you ask better questions and understand their behaviors. If you understand their behaviors, you understand their needs, and you can give them more service or provide the value to them with what they want and what they need. So, in times of an economic crisis now, meet them where they are now. So it comes back to this empathy piece, caring about what the people you care about. So if somebody's metaphorically hungry, battered, cold, bruised from the pandemic, you don't try and sell them a cookery course. No, you give them a dinner. You give them a drink. You put your arm around them. You make them feel warm and cared for. And only then do you start talking to them about what's next. So meet them where they are now. People are creatures of habit. We love the status quo. We love where we already are at the moment. So they may already be doing business with somebody else, another legal firm. So the first thing we need to do is gain consensus as to why they should change, who they should change to, and what they should change to. So if we're slowing the pace down a little bit, I think it's important to redefine what winning looks like. Let me give a social experiment to support that of reciprocity. There was a group of waiters invited into a restaurant to see if they could increase the number of tips given. The first group of waiters went to a table, and at the end of the meal, they gave the first table a bill and a sweet, one sweet. Just by giving a sweet, what percentage increase of tips do you think there was simply by giving a tip? Pardon? 10%. A little bit lower. Not bad effort. 3%. 3%, not a lot. Just one sweet. Second group of waiters at the end of the meal, they gave the bill, and this time they gave 2 sweets. What percentage this time do you think? Pardon, at the back? 5. A little bit more than that. This time it was 14%. 2 sweets. The final group, the most intriguing group, they went to the table with a bill and 1 sweet. Just as the waiter was walking away, they reached into their pocket and, sir, just because of you, an additional sweet. What percentage increase this time do you think? 25. Not bad. 23%. How many sweets were given? 2 sweets. What was the difference? It's not what you say, but how you say it. Which leads to this. What matters individually? One of your key building blocks of your values is also about you guys as well. So those of you who are managing or leading teams, I think it's important to consider this as well. How many of you have got a list of your clients or even people who you manage or lead, and adjacent to them, their dates of birth or what matters to them? I'd imagine to guess not many. But how do you feel if somebody comes up to you and wishes you a happy birthday, whether it is your birthday or not? How do you feel? You looked amazed. You're like, oh, that's amazing. How do you feel? You feel great, right? Even though you know it's probably popped up on Facebook. What about if somebody remembers you at a conference 3 years later and remembers your name? You feel amazing. But what about how we reward our clients or reward great work? So often we might give out a bottle of bubbly if you're in the West, or we might give out chocolates. But what happens if Helen doesn't drink alcohol or Steve's a diabetic? Far better is to give something personalized. Maybe you might want to let Helen leave earlier because she's a single mum and she never gets to pick up her children from school. In fact, we did a study at the Influence Association. We used our market data to send out a kind of market research to identify what rewards people like above money, and we took out money and holidays, what things people want the most. And the thing that came up most, it was a handwritten note from the CEO. Now, I'm not suggesting the CEO writes you guys all letters, you might like it, but I am suggesting thinking about being personalized to all of your clients to establish or maintain that client relationship. Throughout the course of this keynote, whether you believe it or not, I've been trying to subliminally influence you. So, for this, I'm going to need 7 people to take part. This is the big one. This is the end of the keynote. If it's rubbish, this is a really bad ending. Keith, go for it. What was your word? I've been trying to influence. It was one of 2. I'm hoping it's this. What was the word?
Cheeseburger.
Again?
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. Let's give him a massive clap over here. It's cheeseburger! So guys, Kelly, thank you so much for organising this. Tuffy, thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it. My name's Duncan Stevens. Thank you so much. Thanks so much.